Good afternoon, Evergreen, and welcome to week 2 of the lockdown. It's currently raining outside, which makes it a perfect day to sit inside, cuddle up next to a fire. Maybe not that warm yet, but cuddle up to maybe a cup of hot chocolate and read a book. The book I have picked out for today is Fang Spoil and the Black Pond. It's a book I wrote several years ago, a series of short stories in it. And my plan is today to read the first one. It's about a little less than 20 minutes long, so hopefully you do have a cup of hot chocolate or some beverage, and you can enjoy it. Let me read the introduction. Actually, I don't know if you saw the picture done by a friend of mine. Let me read the introduction and then we'll get started. This book is dedicated to Nancy, Alexa, Mac, Marshall, and Steve. Especially Steve. Introduction. These stories are best if read aloud to your kids. It's what I did. Each story is mostly a standalone, perfect for bedtime. I thank my dad, Ed York, for his editing and his support. He is a fine writer himself, and I benefited greatly from his clear eye and wise ear. Please note, I did not let the facts interfere with the storytelling. Make sure your child does not use what follows as source material for a school project. They'll get an F. Chapter 1. Fang Spoil and the Black Pond. My name is Fang Spoil, and I'm a frog. Don't ask why I got that name. I have no idea. I don't have fangs, and to the best of my knowledge, frogs can't throw up. My parents must have simply liked the way it sounded, I guess. Either that, or they had no other ideas after naming my 100 or so brothers and sisters. I live with most of those brothers and sisters in a small pond called Black Pond down in Florida. Quiet and peaceful, surrounded by tall grass and black mud. A wonderful place to live. You should visit. Well, I should be a bit more truthful. It was a wonderful place to live. It was just 3 days ago we got a very unwelcome visitor, a mandible bug Silius. Mandible is Latin for jaw. Bug Silius is Latin for, bug Silius. Have you heard of them? Most humans have not, but every member of the animal kingdom has. They are vicious, strong, and sneaky, and they have a large appetite. Mandible bug Siliuses are tall, about 5 feet when fully grown, and they move around on 2 legs like humans. But unlike humans, bug Silius move like a crab, sideways. Their knees are on the outside of their legs, not in the front. And they're black, which gives them a great advantage in night, because you can't see them until they strike. But you can hear them. Have you ever been in the woods late at night and heard that squee sound of thousands of insects? That's exactly what you think it is. Bugs, and lots of them. Put some bug spray on. But mandible bug Silius sound exactly the same. Just one makes the same sound. A scree noise that puts you on edge and makes you want to go indoors. The difference between the insects and the bug Silius is the bug Silius scree noise is localized, whereas the insect sounds come from all around you. A bug Silius sound comes from, say, that oak tree over there where the forest is deep dark. Additionally, the sound a bug Silius makes moves as a bug Silius does. So if you're in the woods at night and the scree sound is all around you, you're fine. If, however, the scree sound moves, you should too. Now. There are several reasons why a bug Silius is so dangerous. Big appetite, bad temper, large size. Add to that the claws. That's what scares me the most. He's got a large claw at the end of each arm. It reminds me of a lobster claw, but this one is much sharper and much bigger. You need to stay well away from it because it'll cut your arm off, which the bug Silius will eat. How gross is that? The advantage we have over the bug Silius is his lack of direct speed. Remember I told you his knees are on the outside of his legs? Well, because of that, he can only run sideways. So when he sees something he wants to eat in front of him, like you, he has to run a zigzag to get to it. You would run away in a straight line, but the bug Silius path would look like this. Let's see if you guys can see this picture. Okay, so the human goes straight. The bug Silius has to zigzag because his knees are on the outside of his legs. You can see this would give us a great advantage in a foot race with the bug Silius, if you saw or heard him coming in time. I tell you all this to help explain why having a mandible bug Silius move into our pond area was such a big deal. While bug Siliuses normally hunt and eat large animals like deer, they have been known to eat smaller ones when the pickings are slim. Small ones like frogs. And so, when he showed up 3 days ago, there was a significant panic among the frog family and all the other innocent pond critters. When I heard the news, I hopped over to the tree where my best friend Timos, the gecko, lives. Timos, whose real name is Thomas, is a great guy. He lives in a hole at the side of a maple tree and can race up and down that tree with amazing speed. Same green color as I am, and we're both the same age. He's smart and funny, and I'm happy he's my friend. Fang Spoil hopped up to Timos's tree, croaked up at the hole on the south side. Timos stuck his head out. Hey, Fang Spoil, how you doing? Not good, Timos. Come on down, we need to talk. Nah, I'm comfortable up here. Just hop on up, Timos said, knowing full well that frogs can't jump that high. Fang Spoil is a fine jumper, mind you, but Timos pokes fun at him ever since he can't jump as high as Timos can climb. Ha ha, Fang Spoil said. You're hilarious. Come on down. Timos was already on his way. What's up? A mandible bug Silius has moved in. Timos paused on his way down the tree and nervously glanced around. Really? You know that? How do you know? The word is out on the frog communication network. Everyone in the pond is talking about it. Pretty exciting stuff. Sardonically, Timos responded. Yeah, exciting until someone gets eaten. And Timos was unfortunately a good predictor. The bug Silius came back late that very night and caught a bunch of frogs sleeping. The alarm was raised, but by then the bug was already among them, slashing and cutting with those terrible claws. Frogs hopped away, frantic, most heading for the deep end of the pond in safety. Most made it, too, but perhaps 24 did not. The following morning, it was a despondent Fang Spoil who visited Timos. Timos had heard about it, of course. Details of disasters travel just as fast in the woods as they do among humans. Fang Spoil spoke sadly. Some of those killed were my brothers and sisters. Timos was very sympathetic. Did you know any of them, he asked. Fang Spoil shook his head, as much as a frog can do that. No, but Mom and Dad are distraught. Timos voiced condolences, but Fang Spoil was already thinking ahead. What do we do if he comes back? Timos looked surprised. What do you mean? You don't have options. You can't do anything but hop and hide. I don't know, mused Fang Spoil, concentration etched on his frog face. I don't like the idea of sitting around waiting for this to happen again. Agreed, Timos. But do you have any ideas? Fang Spoil gave a half smile. I might. You feel like taking a stroll over to visit the snakes? Snakes Fang Spoil referred to as a small family of water moccasins. Frogs and snakes normally don't socialize much, but Fang Spoil's idea evidently required them to work together, so Timos was willing to give it a try. Companionably, the two friends hopped over toward the east side of Black Pond to a clearer area underneath a medium-sized oak tree where the snakes had their holes. Fang Spoil, no novice, made sure to make plenty of noise as they approached. No one likes meeting a surprise snake. Hello, hey you guys, can I speak to you please? You've heard frogs croak. They can be quite loud when required, and Fang Spoil felt that it was required. Several snakes stuck their heads up, some from the grass quite nearby, startling Timos immensely, and several from their holes. Hello, Fang Spoil said again, after he coaxed Timos back down from the oak tree. Can we talk? There's a mandible bug Silius who's killing my family, and I'm hoping we can get rid of him with your help. Most of the snakes responded to this by lowering their heads and returning to their snake business. However, one came over. He looked young, but intelligent, and spoke without that irritating hissing noise that most snakes do. Mandible bug Silius, you say? That explains the foul odor, yes. I've never smelled them before, but now I'll never forget. What do you want to do? This snake, Fang Spoil thought, gets right down to business. Good. My name is Fang Spoil, and this is my good friend Timos. What's yours? Legs. Don't ask. That line was delivered without a hint of smile, and Timos had to bite the inside of his lower lip to stop a laugh. Well, Legs, pleased to meet you. If you'll agree, I'd like to have you help me scare away the bug. I've heard they're definitely afraid of water moccasins. That's true, said Legs, but we're not real water moccasins. Fang Spoil and Timos looked at each other in confusion. Really, we're not. We look just like them, but we're not poisonous. Wow, said Fang Spoil. I had no idea. But that doesn't change anything. The bug Silius doesn't know that. He'll see you and think he's face to face with a real moccasin. He will, answered Legs, until he sees me open my mouth to hiss. We have no fangs. To show this, Legs opened his mouth very wide. No fangs, but a very long forked tongue. Timos gave an inward shudder. That forked tongue was creepy. Fang Spoil was not put off. His brain thought Timos must be working overtime. If I get you fake fangs, will you help us? I need you to meet the bug Silius over the north side of the pond. If we're successful, you'll scare him so badly he'll never return. I'll do it, responded Legs. But how are you going to get me some fake fangs? I'll show you when you come over to our side. Can we meet at 7 o'clock? It's dusk at that time, and it'll give us enough time to set up before full dark. Okay? See you at 7? Legs nodded, and the three said their goodbyes. Fang Spoil and T-Moss went back in the direction they had come, moving briskly. Fang Spoil was all energy, hopping quickly and happily. This is going to work, he said, his enthusiasm infectious. We'll get the bug to follow me up the trail heading north out of the pond. And I'll lead him right to Legs, who'll be waiting in the trail. He'll give the bug a mouthful of fangs, and Bug will take off like a rabbit chased by a fox. T-Moss agreed, but asked, what are you going to use for fangs? Maggots, said Fang Spoil. They're long and white, and Legs can hold them in place with that forked tongue. Brilliant, huh? I think it'll work. Words failed T-Moss, but only for a moment. But in that moment, Fang Spoil took an exceptionally long jump while looking over his shoulder at T-Moss. In other words, he wasn't watching where he was going, and more importantly, where he would land. As luck would have it, he landed squarely in the middle of some old cold deer droppings, right smack dab in the center where it was deepest. Words came back to T-Moss in a rush. Watch out! You're gonna... And then he was doubled over with laughter. He laughed like never before, rolling on his back on the ground, whipping around his tail. When he thought he'd finished laughing, he'd wipe his tears from his eyes, glance at the pile of deer dropping, and see a bit of Fang Spoil's head peeping over the top. Then he'd break out laughing again. Fang Spoil was not laughing. He was trying to hop out of the smelly, cold mess without touching anything, which, of course, is impossible. Additionally, he was using his front paws to wipe the mess off his face when he should have been using them for balance and leverage. Long story short, Fang Spoil spent more time in that pile than needed, and T-Moss enjoyed every moment of it. When Fang Spoil got out, after giving up the staying clean part, he hopped over to T-Moss, who was still rolling around on the ground in stitches. Yeah, laugh your heart out. But when you fall in that stuff next time, I'm not going to help. I'm just going to laugh too. Actually, Fang Spoil was beginning to laugh as he spoke. It was funny. Wait here. I'll go rinse off. Fang Spoil hopped away, leaving T-Moss to catch his breath and wipe his eyes. T-Moss had recovered his composure by the time Fang Spoil returned, aside from an occasional chuckle, and the two set off again. Fang Spoil was somewhat subdued from his earlier mood, took more care to watch where he was going. When they went past the tree, T-Moss asked, Where are we heading? Fang Spoil pointed. That down tree, you know, the one that fell over last spring? T-Moss nodded. Oh, yeah. Do you hope to find maggots there? Yep, said Fang Spoil. Neither geckos nor frogs eat maggots. Disgusting little insects, T-Moss thought. I wonder how we're going to carry them to Legs. He had a bad feeling about this, as he was the only one with hands. Fang Spoil, he said, how are we going to catch them? Wait, I'll show you. They arrived at the log, a medium-sized birch that had fallen in a storm. At the base was a colony of maggots, busily reducing the wood to dirt. Fang Spoil and T-Moss moved in toward them slowly. Fang Spoil whispered, I'll get 2 big ones, long, that are asleep. I'll grab them with my tongue and hand them to you. Sorry, but you'll have to carry them. T-Moss heard the I'll grab them with my tongue part and thought that he was definitely getting the better end of this deal. At least he wouldn't have to put them in his mouth, so he just nodded. Fang Spoil moved within range, scanned the area for likely fangs, and selected his targets. Quick as a blink, his tongue shot out 3 inches, and with the sticky end, plucked a long and skinny magnet from its spot on the log. The tongue and maggot reeled back into Fang Spoil's mouth blindingly fast, and then came back out as Fang Spoil tried not to taste or wake his prey. Take it! Oof! Ugh! Quick! Fang Spoil discovered how hard it was to talk with a maggot in his mouth. T-Moss pulled the maggot from Fang Spoil's extended tongue and held it gently. It was asleep, but still disgusting. He suppressed a shudder and watched Fang Spoil repeat the sequence. Within 15 seconds, they had 2 maggots, both fortunately sleeping, both long and skinny. T-Moss did not like carrying them, but since they were asleep and not crawling on his hands, he couldn't complain. It could be worse, he thought. He could have had to hold them in his tongue like Fang Spoil did and Legs was going to. Yuck. Fang Spoil wiped his tongue on the grass after handing the second maggot off to T-Moss, and they both headed back to the pond. Gross, muttered Fang Spoil. Just gross. Tastes like mud with too much salt. Hope Legs can hold them in his mouth long enough for this to work. The two got back to the pond as dusk was settling in. Tonight the frog family was taking to the water, swimming out to the deep end, rather than following their normal routine of sleeping on the shore. Last night's massacre was still very fresh in everyone's mind. Legs showed up right at 7 o'clock. Snakes are a precise bunch. Fang Spoil thanked them for coming and led him to the path to his spot. Timos carried the maggots along. Legs glanced at the maggots but said nothing. When they had gone 10 yards up the path, Fang Spoil stopped. Legs, you stay here. I'll go back to the pond. When the bug shows up, I'll make a lot of noise and come hopping this way. I'll lead him right to you, and you scare the meanness out of him, right? And Timos, you climb the tree and keep an eye out for me. You'll both likely hear me coming, but if not, please bark to let Legs know that I'm close. Timos didn't point out the remarkable risk Fang Spoil was taking. What if the bug Silius was faster than Fang Spoil thought? The bug could catch and kill Fang Spoil before they reached Legs. Rather than voice this dismal worry, Timos said to his friend, you better be moving fast. There's no room for error. Fang Spoil nodded, turned back toward the pond. It's getting dark. Places, everyone. He hopped away into the deepening dusk. Timos climbed the nearest tree. Legs positioned himself in the center of the path. Then, thinking perhaps the same grim thoughts as Timos, he moved 2 yards closer to the pond. Quiet descended. Fang Spoil was alone on the shore's edge. The pond's inhabitants settled down for the night, and Fang Spoil took his life in his hands and let out an enormously loud croak. And another, and another. He hopped around to make even more noise. Matter of fact, it was so loud it sounded like Fang Spoil was directing a frog choir. All the while, however, our frog was listening as if his life depended on it. And it did. He had to hear the bug Silius coming to give himself enough time to race up the path. He heard in the distance, haunting, scream. Shivers raced down his spine. His heart seemed to triple its beating. He croaked louder and listened harder, trying to determine if the scree noise moved. After a couple minutes and more hopping and croaking, he heard a rustling noise from the direction of the scree. Had it moved? Was it now coming more from the west? He thought so and continued the croaking while starting to move up the path. The scree was certainly moving now, he was sure. It no longer seemed to be coming from all over. Now it was from the west, getting closer. Heaven help us. The noise, something dark and large moving through the woods, trying to be quiet, trying to be sneaky, was coming from that direction too, and Fang Spoil's blood was pounding in his ears. The bushes on the west side of the clearing erupted with a noise and a big black figure as the mandible bug Silius charged. Fang Spoil caught one glimpse of something huge, fast, and seemingly right on top of him, and hopped like never before. Fang Spoil was a pretty good jumper, a little better than average. His jumps weren't too vertical, nor too horizontal, just about the perfect 39 degrees trajectory, optimized for distance. This evening, however, he moved from little better than average to world class. You would too if you were being chased by something big and deadly. His first leap started him up the path, the mandible coming up behind him in a rush. The second leap, better than the first as he got into the groove, was probably 1.5 feet in distance, the longest jump of his life. But while the jumps kept getting longer, even though the mandible was running zigzag, it was gaining on Fang Spoil, and gaining quickly. Fang Spoil was getting tired. Frogs aren't marathoners, you know. Air whistled out of his lungs, his heart painfully thudded in his chest as he kept his ears tuned for the gaining mandible. And in the middle of the hop, he heard for the first time the click, 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 click of the mandible's claws reaching for him. He ducked in the middle of a hop, landed slightly askew, jumped as high as he could. The reaching claw snipped shut below him, clicking for his legs, missing, then gone, as the mandible continued to zigzag. In the distance, it seemed, through blood roaring in his ears, he heard Timos's barking. He was getting close, just around the bend up ahead. But the mandible was on the zag now, coming back for him, and Fang Spoil knew in the coldly logical part of his heart that he had misjudged. The mandible was too fast for him, and he placed Legs too far up the path. Fang Spoil wouldn't be able to avoid the mandible this time. He was out of ground speed, air speed, and ideas. And that's when Legs reared up, right in front of the surprised and desperate frog and his hungry enemy, rearing up at least 2 feet, or so it seemed to the airborne frog, with his mouth wide open, fangs glistening in the shafts of moonlight, hissing and weaving in the middle of the path. Fang Spoil narrowly avoided crashing into Legs and landed beyond him, leaving Legs facing the mandible as it came to an abrupt stop. And everything stopped. The snake remained in his striking pose. The mandible, perhaps sensing something was not quite kosher, stood at a dead stop in the path, just feet from the snake. Timos, quiet now in the tree, looked at Fang Spoil, who was looking at the standoff. No one moved. And Fang Spoil had the sinking feeling that the mandible was smarter than he thought, that mandibles maybe had seen through his plan, somehow knew the fangs were actually just maggots, held in place by Legs' forked tongue. But then that sinking feeling was replaced by amazement. In an incredible act of courage, Legs, still hissing, moved toward the mandible bug Silius. A defenseless snake, depending on a ruse, moved toward a hulking enemy who could kill him simply by reaching out one clawed arm. But that move was exactly what was required. The mandible's stalk eyes widened, the arms dropped, and he ran. Crashing sideways through the bush at the side of the path, the mandible made tremendous noise as he raced back and forth toward the northwest and far away from Black Pond. The three friends remained still, listening to the diminishing sound of the mandible's retreat. It faded into nothing, and the forest was quiet once more. Timos came down from his tree. Fang Spoil hopped over the legs. The snake calmly spit out the now two wriggling maggots. The three looked solemnly at each other. Legs, you moved up from where I put you, said Fang Spoil. Thanks for doing that. Saved my life, because I couldn't have stayed ahead of that mandible any longer. My pleasure, smiled Legs. But you might have been fine. You were doing some amazing jumps. Did I actually see you jump over the claw? Must be a world record. Fang Spoil smiled back. Thank you, but that's about the end of it. I'm exhausted, but thanks to you, I'm not dead. Timos patted both on the back, as they weren't equipped to shake hands. Well done, you two. Strong work. But that's enough excitement for me for one night. I'm off to bed. That's chapter 1. The end. Chapter 2 is about the history of the mandible bug Silius, where they came from, and how we got to know them. The rest of the book is basically about more stories about Fang Spoil and Timos and their adventures near the Black Pond. And that's all I got. I hope you guys are having a good day. See you later.